He joins us every other week to talk all things sports with the Acme Packing Company. Sports guru Paul Noonan is here. Good morning, Paul. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. What a game. The Packers and the Cowboys. I know Stephen from Green Bay was the one who he was very confident. He had called in and said, we're going to be fine. And he was right.
Yeah.
I certainly did not think it was going to end the way that it did.
I mean, it was a good score, but when I was watching, it was like 32 to something, and then it was like 32. We gave up 16 points.
We did.
So there was a lot of room for
They made it closer than they should have. They pulled starters a little early. I know Joe Barry's taken some heat for the quick catch up that the Cowboys did in the second half. I don't even blame him that much for that. At that point, they were trying to keep starters healthy, and they didn't let it get close enough that it was really ever in danger. Like 16 points is still 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. It's closer than it should have been. But other than that one particular person, I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams saw them taking apart the Cowboys like this. It was one of the most impressive performances of the season for any NFL team. The Cowboys defense was no lower than 5th by any metric out there, and they just tore them apart. And nobody has gotten anything close to that against the Cowboys this year. I'm more surprised by how the defense showed up, honestly. But Jordan Love was phenomenal in that game, and I think more than anything, they showed that the Packer receivers are just all pretty much the same level of good, and whoever draws the other team's worst defender, which was Romeo Doubs in this game, is just gonna eat. And Aaron Rodgers back in the day, he would always have his favorites. He would have Devontae Adams, who would always lead the NFL in the percentage of his team's targets that he got. He just leaned on him so heavily. It was Lazard after that. He would never spread the ball around. He would never do this, no matter how evenly spread out they were. And Jordan Love just seems to like everybody and is able to hit everybody. And so there is no way to hide your weakest defender against the Packers. It cannot be done. It is an impossible task. And Love was amazing. Had a perfect passer rating until he had to go back in, threw an incomplete pass. No worse than the 4th best playoff debut in NFL history by a quarterback.
That's an amazing stat you have in your head.
I looked it up. So, and honestly, you can argue it's the best. The actual best by, unfortunately, the best by most metrics is actually Tim Tebow. And that game wasn't actually good. It's just that he hit like 2 big passes, so he averaged 30 yards of completion. But it really is probably Love. It's probably the best playoff debut of all time.
Well, it's just so delightful to see such a young team with such a young quarterback and a new quarterback. Granted, it's not like he's brand new to this. He's been sitting on the bench for a long time. But to see them to come out and just really execute so well. Yeah. Now, next up, we've got the 49ers.
Yes. An entirely different level. The Cowboys, the only thing you can count on the Cowboys for is Mike McCarthy, the former Packer coach, running his old stable of the same old plays, which he did, and which is why he got intercepted on a triple slant play that everybody's seen him run a zillion times. The 49ers are coached by Kyle Shanahan. He is almost certainly the best coach in football. He is definitely the best offensive coach in football. And if there is any other good coach in the NFL, they almost certainly learned under him, including Matt LaFleur, who was under Kyle Shanahan in, I think, Atlanta and maybe in Washington too. He was under Sean McVay, who is himself a Shanahan disciple in Los Angeles. And of all the people who run the similar offense to the 49ers, the Packers are probably the most similar. They like to get a little bit heavy. They have that sort of distributed class of receivers where they're all kind of as good as each other. And the thing, McCarthy got fooled. Kyle Shanahan will not get fooled. This will not be a situation where we outsmart the 49ers. That's not going to happen. And if you're worried about Joe Barry showing up badly in this game, that's probably a legitimate concern. The 49ers are stacked across the board. They have the NFL's best receiver this year, Brandon Ayuk. Their best tight end this year, George Kittle. Their secret weapon, Deebo Samuel, who is the best run after the catch receiver probably in NFL history, and the best running back with Christian McCaffrey. So that's what you're looking at in this game, plus a coach who knows what to do. It's a tough match.
Do you think with the success over the past few weeks, Joe Barry has gotten a reprieve, or do you think He's on borrowed time.
I think that every time they win, his chances improve. That last game was, let's give credit where it's due. Joe Barry called a good game in that game, even though they gave a lot back in the second half. That interception Darnell Savage had was a tape study interception. That was a coaching interception. Jair Alexander getting his was an athletic play, but he was doing a good job playing aggressive and shadowing. And so I think for now, if as long as they don't give up like a 40 burger against the 49ers or something more than that, he's probably safe. He's put together a few good performances in a row. I don't think that's necessarily the best idea. We have a long track record of Joe Barry being Joe Barry. But I also think it is a sure thing that he gets outdueled by the 49ers. He gets to practice against this every day. He's familiar with it. And last time we played the 49ers in the playoffs 2 years ago in Lambeau when it was negative 10 degrees out, he actually had a pretty good defensive performance too. I think he was helped a lot by the weather and Jimmy Garoppolo's thumb not really working properly, but it's happened before. So I have some hope in this game. I think the Packers they're equal on offense. It's just they got to get a little lucky on defense to pull this off.
If you're just joining us, our guest is Acme sports writer Paul Noonan. He is also a sports guru just in general, and we're talking about the Packers facing off against the 49ers this coming Saturday night. Big game. So we have a chance. I want to know how I should feel when I'm prepping to lead up to that. Should I be
So I've got
hopeful?
I got a good secret one for everybody.
Okay.
So on paper, the 49ers were far and away the best team in football this year, by any way you want to slice it. Best point differential in the NFC, loaded on defense, loaded on offense. Here's a fun one, though, all right? And this seems to be at least semi-real. Their quarterback is Brock Purdy, a seventh-round pick, Mr. Irrelevant.
Wait, what's that name again?
Brock Purdy.
Oh, my God.
A Purdy quarterback. He is, first of all, people don't necessarily give him a lot of respect because he plays in this awesome offense with an awesome play caller, but he's been leaps and bounds better than past 49ers quarterbacks. I think he's at least okay. But here's a fun thing about Brock Purdy. He's got tiny little hands, 9.25 hand measurement at the combine. And not for some reason, for that reason, he actually seems to struggle when it rains. He's had his worst performances of his career when it's been wet. And that even includes like a quarter this year where it rained, I think against Cleveland, where he was awful and then it dried up and he was good again. It is, I know, right? We dig into everything here. It is, in fact, supposed to rain in San Francisco this weekend. It's supposed to be wet. We may have a wet ball game, and it's a problem for Purdy. He doesn't throw as nice a ball when the ball is wet. It does not spiral. He doesn't have a good arm to start with. He has like a mediocre arm. And so hope for rain this weekend. It actually might make a material difference in the Packers' chance.
Well, and that sounds very much to me like something that a person who bets on sports would know. You know, the small hands in the rain. It's that sounds like a song. My little paws in the rain.
Brock Purdy. He's got tiny hands and he's scared of the rain.
I'm melting. Paul Noonan is our guest. We're talking Packers 49ers. I want to go back to Mike McCarthy a little bit. I just saw this morning, Paul, that he's staying with the Cowboys. They are not gonna cut him loose.
I was gonna say, is he staying or are they keeping him?
They're keeping him. I think everybody expected Mike to get fired. I think most people expected it like immediately after the game, and it's one of these things where you can view Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, is actually taking sort of a measured perspective here. McCarthy has put together 3 consecutive 12-win seasons for that team, which he was pretty good at when he was the Packers coach as well. It's just that in the playoffs, when people spend just more time game planning, and when you run up against the other sort of newer, more creative coaches, he just can't compete with them. He seemingly hasn't come up with anything new since he was the Packers coach. And that's what lost him this game fundamentally is the Cowboys just don't run that many plays. They're easy to spot on tape. They rely on overpowering people with talent, but it's just like everybody's got them figured out. And if you took away CeeDee Lamb, which the Packers did very well, they run like the same slants and slant and go patterns over and over and over again. The Packers jumped it a few times, and it's going to keep happening. Like Mike's not getting better. He's a good Monday to Saturday coach. He gets his team very organized, They run efficient practices, but in terms of creativity and implementing the new ideas of the NFL, he's backward. You're not going to win a playoff game with him unless you just put together an overwhelming talent, and they don't have that in college. Like they just don't.
Hmm.
I'm very surprised.
Yeah, and I am too, Paul, because you would think that if what you want are some new plays and some new direction and some new vision, is there no one out there who's in the running for a to replace someone like McCarthy? Are they just
There's
all
a
inexperienced
ton.
or
There's a ton of good options out there. A lot of them are interviewing right now. Detroit's offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is very sought after and runs a very sophisticated offense. In fact, one of the problems Detroit is likely to have in the future is they have a defensive-minded head coach. When you're a defensive-minded head coach, your offensive coordinators get poached for coaching positions all the time. Detroit will probably be worse next year without Ben Johnson, but he's going to end up somewhere. He'll either probably end up with the Chargers or Washington or somewhere for sure. Shane Steichen, who is the Colts offensive coordinator, would also be an excellent selection. If you're wondering why the Eagles got so much worse this year, it's because the Colts poached Shane Steichen from them, and without them, they regressed quite a bit. This is actually a really good offseason to move on from your old state head coach, and I think Dallas is going to miss a window on some really good candidates by doing that. Dallas is attractive too. They have a good talent level. And coaching there, Jerry interferes. That's annoying. But like generally speaking, if you can get some buy-in to run your system, you can be very successful there very quickly. It's a coach's dream. So I'm not sure what they're up to there.
You can't walk into Dallas and be like with any other expectation that Jerry Jones is going to be on your call sheet every single day, telling you exactly what he thinks and what you're doing wrong. So that's part of the package deal. I mean, man owns the stadium. He built it with his own money. But we only have a couple minutes left. Can we talk really quick about the trouncing of the Bucks last night?
We can.
We got a couple minutes left. Just the fact is that Giannis wasn't playing. 40-point loss. What is that saying anything, or is that just an off night?
It's an off night plus a couple guys banged up, plus mostly Giannis not being there. But I think it does go to show just how much their system is suffering under Adrian Griffin, and just how much they rely on Giannis being superhuman to stay competitive.
yeah?
They have a good record. They've hung with a lot of teams, but a lot of those games, A, have been close, and B, they've actually still benefited from a lot of three-point luck. The good teams they play tend not to hit their threes. That tends to regress to the mean after a while. It did in this game. And you shouldn't get blown out without Giannis out there. Losing, yes, fine, he's your best player, but it's not like Lillard is some scrub. You still have a pretty star-laden team, and you shouldn't just be getting destroyed because Giannis has to take a night off. So it's worth monitoring. I still don't think they're very well coached, and I think that when they do have to rest important players, this might be not 40 points, but kind of the norm.
Paul Noonan joins us every other Thursday to talk all things sports. Thank you so very much, Paul. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.